Assalamu alaikum and hello everyone. Welcome to Justice for All Now. This is your host, Henna Zubairi. You're watching us on Muslim Network TV, America's only Muslim-focused television channel. You can watch us 24 hours on Galaxy 19, Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Father Stan Swami is an 83-year-old Catholic Jesuit priest who was arrested on October 8th by India's National Investigative Agency. He's been arrested what critics are calling false charges. He's worked tirelessly over the past 3 decades to uplift and empower tribal and ethnic groups as well as Dalits. He stood up for peace and justice, and now he's under arrest in India with no chances of bail. Today, we will be speaking to Father Cedric Prakash, who's also a Jesuit priest from the Indian province of Gujarat, where he's a part of the Society of Jesus. He's an internationally known human rights advocate, peace activist with a focus on advocacy. He's a prolific writer on several subjects, particularly constitutional and other human rights, environmental justice, peace, and contextual spirituality. We are so grateful to have Father Cedric with us here today. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome him to the show and learn more about his work from him himself. Thank you so much for being here, Father Cedric.
Thank you.
I wanted to talk to you about your work and your. I know we could spend probably an hour going through just your contributions to the human rights and peace movement worldwide, and hopefully, and I was saying this to you before the show one day, we can have a chat about that and spend an hour with you on that. And I wish we had met in better times. And it's quite frightening what has happened to Father Stan. And so this show will be centered around him and the need to bring more global limelight to his case. But I do want to spend some time learning more about you and letting our audience know about your great, all the work that you've been doing. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Henna, and all at Justice for All. It is good to be here at your channel and speaking to your wide range of viewers, not merely in the United States and Canada and Mexico, but in other parts of the world too. I feel very privileged to be with you all today. Thank you for having me on this show. At the beginning, I would like to profess that I'm an Indian. I love my country. I'm faithful to my beloved country, India, and to the Constitution of India. Today, we are the world's largest democracy, and you in the United States are the world's oldest democracy. And we have in our Constitution, in our preamble, very cherished values. It's our sacred book. The values of justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity. And through your channel, I would like to tell all your viewers that these values are sacred to us, are sacred to me, and many of us here in India are doing all we can to preserve the sanctity of those values and ensure that it reaches, as the father of our Constituent Assembly and even Mahatma Gandhi wanted, to reach the poorest Indian, the one who's there living in the peripheries. Over the years, I've been involved in, justice, peace, reconciliation work, because I sincerely believe that we need peace in the world, that we need harmony in every place where we live, in our families, in our societies, in our villages, in our cities, in our countries throughout the world. And there is much that is being done today to prevent that peace. And one of the things that is happening is injustice. the way people are kept divided in the name of religion, in the name of class, of ethnicity. Here in India, we have the caste, and people are demonized, they are denigrated. And over the years, working in the slums of Ahmedabad, working in the villages of Gujarat, working in different parts of the world. I've been for the last, from 2016 to 2018, I was based in Beirut and working among the refugees, people who have suffered, and for no fault of their own. And the question I've been asking, not merely me, but several of my colleagues, my companions, though my collaborators, those who work with us, we ask, why should this happen? And over the years, as I said earlier, we have been doing all we can to ensure that there is justice, justice for the least of our sisters and brothers, justice for those who need it most, because we believe that only when we have justice, there will be true and lasting peace. We have done it in communities, we have done it in the slums, in the villages, working with people, trying to lobby, as you would say in America, with those who determine policy, who make policy, who keep people divided in a whole variety of ways. But what I'm doing is not as important today as the work my great elder Jesuit brother, Father Stan Swami, has done in his 83 years of life.
Definitely. And we're going to be talking about Father Stan. The reason why I wanted people to know about your work, especially with Prashant, the Jesuit Center for Human Rights and Justice and Peace, is to really, when you're on the ground there, your point of view and your perspective is very different from people who are, who might get on TV and sometimes claim to be experts and on India. And that's a lot of times that's who we hear around us. And your perspective is so important and so unique, because not only do you live there, but you've been doing this work for decades and have seen the waves that have come through in your state of Gujarat. You were part of, and plus a lot of people in the U.S. may know you from the times that you testified in front of the United States Commission of International Religious Freedom. I just wanted to remind our audience of that. This is the same Father Cedric. So this is why I wanted to ask a little bit more about your just to introduce you to our reintroduce you to our audience. I wanted to really we have heard the name of Father Stan Swami over the years, and because of his work with the tribal people against corporations. Yet, when you read articles in the newspaper, the police are allegedly calling Father Stan a member of the banned Maoist Party of India. They call him. They are calling him. Have arrested him for being involved in a conspiracy to instigate caste violence near in Pune. So now, can you tell us who is Father Stan Swami?
Father Stan Swami, like me, is a Jesuit belonging to the Society of Jesus. You have a large number of Jesuits there in the United States, the ones who are in charge of Georgetown University. I held a chair at the Marquette University in Wisconsin. They run the Loyola University in Chicago and several other universities throughout the United States and Canada. And also, they work a lot in Mexico and in other parts of the world. So we belong to this same group of men within the Catholic Church, which was founded by St. Ignatius of Loyola almost 500 years ago. One of the things that we have in the Society of Jesus, which few people, perhaps who are not Jesuits, may not know, that we had a very special general congregation where all our key, representatives and what we call our leaders, our superiors, met in Rome in around 75, 76. We called it the General Congregation 32. It was under the leadership, the stewardship of Father Pedro Arupe, who was a Basque Jesuit, a doctor, who was in the midst of the bombing in Hiroshima. And he made that house that he lived with young Jesuits into a battle hospital. They looked after patients there. Even at that time, that was in 1945, I guess. And Father Pedro Arupe was at the helm of the affairs of the Society of Jesus um, when we had the general congregation, and they gave us the faith justice mandate.
Mm.
That means if I have to be a true Jesuit, if I have to be a true follower of Jesus, if I have to be a witness to what Christ teaches us, I have to take a stand for justice,
Mm.
very especially when I see injustice. We have had the classic case of the Jesuits being killed in El Salvador, in San Salvador. There was also a bishop who was not a Jesuit, Oscar Romero, who was killed, but he
Mm.
was inspired by a Jesuit called Rutulio Grande. There's another great Jesuit in Germany, Rupert Meyer. We celebrate his feast on the 3rd of November, who took a stand against the Nazis.
Mhm.
And all over the world, we have had Jesuits who, who have taken a stand for truth and for justice. And that has been our inspiration. Um,
And
for your audience, I would like to tell you that the Pope today, Pope Francis, is also a Jesuit. It
mm.
is unique. Normally, we never become popes. It's the first and only Pope we have had in the history of the Catholic Church. Now, Father Stan Swami believed in this mandate. He was originally a trainer, training people on issues related to justice and peace. I went to one of his trainings at the Indian Social Institute in Bangalore, which belongs to the Jesuits. Later on, he went back to his home province in Jharkhand. And since then, for more than almost 30 years, he has identified himself totally with the Adivasis, the indigenous people, the native people, the tribals of that area, people who were the original inhabitants of the land, and they were being deprived of their rights. They were deprived of their, what we say in Hindi, roti, kapda, or makan, their food, clothing, and shelter. And Father Stan very strongly believed that this group had to be empowered. He did not dole out. He did not give them any largesse. He walked the talk with them. He
Mm.
ensured that the PESA, the rights of the panchayat extension law, would come and the tribals would have a kind of a self rule. He he fought for them for their forest rights. That the mining mafia, those who were destroying the forests to take away the natural resources, would no longer do so because the government and the Supreme Court had advocated that this should not happen. But yet, because of the fact that we have had corruption being mainstreamed in several quarters, the Adivasis, the tribals, did not know. And for the stand has been standing up for them, empowering them. That
Mm.
is why he's languishing in a jail today from the 8th of October.
And you call his arrest an insult to justice. I,
Definitely. Very clear. It's an insult, it's an affront to justice. You know, exactly the words I would like to use what Martin Luther King Jr. was saying. You know, yeah, it's injustice and it should not happen to Stan or to anyone the way he was arrested.
And now, between June 2018 and now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government has jailed 16 people in connection with the violence that took place in the Bhima Koregaon village in Maharashtra State. Can you, and these include some of India's most respected scholars, lawyers, academicians, cultural activists, and an aging poet who then contracted COVID-19 in prison. So I would want to know more about, and we're going to watch Father Stan's testimony because he knew he was next. So let's watch his testimony, and then I'd like to get your thoughts on what is happening. Why is this taking place?
I wish to start this video by saying in the context in which I am. Right now, NIA is interrogating me. They have done 15 hours of interrogation, and still they want me to go to Bombay, which I am saying I will not go to Bombay for reasons that I will explain later. Now, a little background about my uh, being and active and in Jharkhand is in the context of Jharkhand becoming a separate state. And so everybody wanted it as state, but then the issues were there. The issues were especially displacement, land alienation because of mining, factories, townships, dams, and people were not taken into confidence. Hardly only minimal compensation was being paid to them. So we took it as a challenge and say how young people can take this as a life issue and fight it out. So in this process, some very helpful rulings or laws were passed by the Indian Parliament, and particularly one PESA Act. PESA Act, which gives significant powers to the Gram Sabha, whatever happens in the village, for it to be consulted and to get its consent. The other is the Land Acquisition Act, which for the first time recognizes the need to get the consent of the people, of the landowners, mm, and a fair compensation to them. So this kind of opened the way for us, and people started to claim their rights. But as they claimed, they were just being thrown into jail. So in 2017, I gave a call to whoever I knew, not only in Jharkhand, but in all the central tribal states of Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Odisha, and Bengal. So we came together, we have formed a body called Persecuted Prisoner Solidarity Committee. And through that, we had planned to take up, to first to do a study of the nature of under trial prisoners in all these states, and then to have recourse to legal action so that justice can be done. In this process, I have filed a case against the Jharkhand state in Jharkhand High Court on behalf of about 3,000 young Adivasis who are languishing in the jail. It is this which became a bone of contention with the state, and they wanted to put me out of the way. And one easy way was to implicate me in some serious cases. And this case, it so happened, the Bhima Koregaon, a place that I have never been to in all my life. I was implicated there. I was raided twice. First, it was done by Pune police. Then it was forcibly taken over by NIA. They have done.
It's so hard to hear his voice. He's so elderly, and have the idea that now he has been arrested under the UPA law. Can you tell us more about the UPA law and give us some background about Bhima Koregaon? Why is this such a pivotal sort of a case?
Father Stan spoke into this video, which his companions did just before his arrest on the 8th October evening. And that night, the police took him to some guest house in Ranchi itself. Early next morning, they flew him to Bombay. He was produced before one of the special courts and immediately lodged into the Taloja jail. Now, he has been arrested under this dreaded UAPA, the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. Now, the UAPA itself is nothing new. It was there much before the emergency. It began in 1967 in order to prevent any kind of unlawful activity, any kind of terrorist activity, and so on. And over the years, it was used in very specific ways. Only groups were targeted, groups that were, bombing, they were creating violence and so on, and they were banned in the country. In fact, even before this act came in, the first Home Minister of India, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel from Gujarat, banned the RSS, the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, RSS. So groups have been banned in India from 1967. There are a whole list of it. But however, around some time ago, beginning from 2014, the government had started some amendments towards this act. And then in 2019, 18, 19, in fact, they began saying that even if you're an individual, you can be arrested, not only if you belong to a group. So this is being challenged in the Supreme Court of India by several organizations to say that just because I'm friendly with you, XYZ, that doesn't make me a terrorist. I can have you as a neighbor. We can have our meals together. I really don't know what you are doing. I may exchange pleasantries with you. I can wish you for Diwali or for Eid or for Christmas. That doesn't make me complicit in your crime if you happen to be belonging to an outlawed or a banned group. Now let's look at Bhima Koregaon. It was the 200th anniversary on the 1st of January 2018. There were thousands of people that gather every year, mainly Dalits, people who were denied their rights and are still denied their rights. It's literally an assertion of the Dalit community on their identity and against what they call the hegemony of the powerful upper caste of India. And they have been suffering a lot. Now, on the 200th anniversary, on the 1st of January 2018, some violence broke out there in and around Pune, near the city of Pune. And prior to that, in 2017, towards the end, there was what is called an Elgar Parishad, in which some of the former justices of India, lawyers, academics, some of the intelligentsia had gathered and were trying to help the Dalits literally seek their rightful place in society. Now, what has happened since 2018? Several have been arrested. Okay, some of the best lawyers like Sudha Bharadwaj, people like Vernon Gonsalves, Arun Ferreira, Varavara Rao, who's ailing there, as you have said just now, in jail. Some of the greatest, Anand Teltumde. These are all intellectuals, all giants who have contributed towards the social and intellectual fiber of the country. And okay, now suppose they're talking about the rights of Dalits. What is wrong? The Constitution allows us to talk about the rights of Dalits. Now, Father Stan Swami, who has never been to Bhima Koregaon, who was never at the Elgar Parishad, is charged with identifying with those people and saying that he's a terrorist, he belongs to the Maoist group and so on, which is a totally fabricated charge. It's lies. It's simply ridiculous.
Exactly. And this is exactly what Father Swami was asking. He was asking the arresting officers who did not have a warrant for his arrest that he could be interrogated online rather than being taken away to jail because the COVID pandemic is affecting elders at a much higher rate than other segments of society. And he is 83 years old. and has Parkinson's, so is much more vulnerable to the disease. But his plea was refused. Now, this is something I want to. So, could you share with us what is this? Who is speaking up for him in India right now? Who is coming out and really just taking a stand for him?
Um, See, in India, there have been protests.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, we are in the midst of the pandemic. We are officially still in parts under lockdown. Then the police in a particular place can impose Section 144. But ever since his arrest, from the 9th of October, without exaggeration, there are hundreds and thousands of people from all walks of life who have come out from the streets in silent protests, holding hands, in prayer vigils, candlelight vigils. They have come out on webinars. They have come out speaking. There have been op-eds in the papers, and so on. There have been excellent op-eds, and this is not from the Christian community. This is from people from all walks of life, and some of the greatest intellectuals and academics of the country are writing about this. There are signature campaigns, and if you have seen, the High Commissioner for Human Rights of the United Nations, Michelle Bachelet, has also come out with a strong statement. Ms. Lawler, who is the rapporteur for human rights, has spoken about it. Just before that, the European Union Parliament has spoken about what is happening in India in terms of, Maria Arena has spoken about the human rights situation in India. And several people from across the board, definitely in India, have said that what is happening just now to to a man like Stan Swami and to the 15 others is totally unacceptable. Uh, uh, Even the conditions in any jail, especially during the pandemic, is not very good. And when he was taken to jail, his own colleagues will testify that they treated him very rudely and brashly. Did not consider will an 83-year-old man go? Can we not have an iota of humanity left in us, a bit of compassion? And that is what rankles in all this. Why
Yes,
should a man? And here we have, Awake Arise, a leading weekly in India, has this on the cover page: Stand with Stan. And there are any amount of articles being written by people from across the board, condemning what has happened to
different
Stan.
from the ethos of Indian society. The Indian society, we know, is respect for elders. So it's like the erosion of all of that when it comes to even when it comes to this case, especially. I wanted to ask you specifically: is that what, from your point of view, you're from the PM state of Gujarat. You witnessed and spoken about the Gujarat massacre in detail and written about it. Since then to now, what is the state of minorities in India?
Well, to put it in short, the least said is the best, but it's terrible.
Hmm.
We thought that Gujarat 2002 would have been a closed chapter. You know, I've seen some of my close friends being massacred. Ishan Jaffrey, a former member of parliament, his daughter and his son are there, settled down in the United States. I hope they are listening into this. Um, um, he was a great person. He epitomized all all that characterizes the pluralistic and the compassionate fiber of India. He was a friend to everybody. That poor man who was selling vegetables on a little street cart, the one who knocked at his door anytime. He lived in a very simple housing in Gulbarga society, yet they killed him. And we saw with our own, we have witnessed the way people have been brutalized and massacred in 2002. And it went on and on. So much so, the Prime Minister of India, the then Prime Minister, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, had to come and tell Chief Minister to follow the rule of law, to do governance, Raj Dharma. He said it's public, it's there on records. We thought things would be better. Just before that, in 1999, the Christians were bashed up in the state of Gujarat, in the dams, in other parts of India. We had Graham Staines, who was burnt alive with his two little sons there in Orissa. Later on, we had Kandamal. And we have had several attacks on the minorities, specifically the Muslims and Christians of our country. When the pandemic broke out, okay, all over the world, Kerala was one state that addressed the pandemic as early as January. Till the 24th, 25th of March, the government of India did practically nothing. Then they started attacking a Muslim convention there in Delhi, saying that they were responsible. And the way the media took it up, the point is there were lots of other things, including a big jamboree we had here in the city of Ahmedabad. And there were thousands of people present here. And any amount of things have been happening before that and after that. But somehow or the other, if you're a Muslim, then you're denigrated, you're demonized. If you're a Christian, you're attacked because of conversions. Regularly. The other day in Parliament, a member of Parliament had to, while talking about the new Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, it's meant to stifle and throttle NGOs, not merely Christian or Muslims, but NGOs all across the board, especially those who are taking a stand for human rights, justice, and peace. A member of Parliament of the ruling party has to say that they are using the money for conversion activities, referring to Graham Staines and so on. This man was massacred. He was burnt alive with his two little sons. But we have reached such a low level and abysmal depth in terms of our rhetoric. Hate speeches, those who indulge in hate speeches, as we saw in Delhi just prior to the elections, literally get away both with impunity and with a certain amount of immunity they have. But those who talk peace, those who talk love, those who want to bring people together, like my friend Harsh Mandar, they have had false cases for sure on them. Anyone who made a protest against the Citizenship Amendment Act, if that person happens to be a Muslim, okay, from Daligarh Muslim University or whatever, you're put in jail, you're incarcerated, including a pregnant lady, and you have a right, we have a constitutional duty to stand up and speak out against anything which we believe is wrong.
And this is something that's common between the case of the protesters, the student protesters who've been arrested, other lawyers, journalists who have been arrested, and Father Swami, that they were all arrested under this UAPA Act, and
Yes.
It's been used to crush dissent. How do they justify the charges of terrorism? What is the justification, and how is generally Indian society accepting of this?
First of all, let me have a very clear statement that I believe in non-violence. One of my heroes is Mahatma Gandhi, who gave the world ahimsa and satyagraha, non-violence and the force of truth. And he began that from this Gandhi ashram. You can see him behind me sitting there in the Gandhi ashram. And he began it in South Africa, in Durban, the force of truth. And he came here and gave the world non-violence. I believe in non-violence, and I do not subscribe to any kind of violence or terrorist activity anywhere. Not in Gujarat, not in one's family, in one's society, not one religion against the other. And I'm convinced that no religion preaches violence. Show me any religion that preaches violence, and and I will challenge that. People have misused, people have abused, and so on. Now the point is, if you're talking about these intellectuals, you know, we believe that the pen is mightier than the sword, and there have been revolutions. We have had, whether it is the Arab Spring, whether we have had people's movement. Now, in some parts of the world, there are people, in spite of the government of the day, who are out on the streets. Whenever they feel that there is something wrong, it is our constitutional obligation. It's guaranteed to us in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which India is a signatory to, and also in our Indian Constitution. We have both Article 19 and Article 25, which gives us the freedom of speech and expression and the freedom to preach, practice, and propagate one's religion. Now, just because I'm a Christian or a Muslim, I mean, who are you to denigrate me? Just because I don't believe in a God, I have a right not to believe in a God. You're no one to try to foist your belief on me. If I say that this is wrong, that the Adivasis have a right to be able to assert their identity, that their culture, their way of life should not be destroyed by for years.
Corporation.
They've been living there, but one cannot take away what is rightfully theirs. If a man like Father Stan Swami has been speaking up and out for them, if people like Arun Ferreira, Vernon Gonsalves, Sushma Bharadwaj, the dramatist from the Kabir Kala Manch, Varavara Rao, who was a poet, of great esteem, have been speaking out for the rights of the Dalits, the marginalized, the excluded, those who live on the periphery of our society. Tell me, how can you brand them as terrorists? I want to know. Show me their activity in which they have indulged in terrorism. In fact, they have spoken with love, with compassion. They have spoken about the equity, the equality which is necessary in our society, but also demanding that every single individual, whoever he or she is, has that dignity which comes only from above.
True, so true. When I look at these moments, and there are some pivotal moments in history, some that are really that are limelight is shown on them across the world, and some that do not get the exposure they deserve. I believe the arrest of Father Stan Swami is a pivotal moment. How can we make sure that the outrage at his arrest is used for peace and justice, and not hijacked, and not and not just go, it doesn't go away. We need this to use this mistake that the government has made to really highlight the issues that Dalits, other minorities in India are facing. Do you believe this is a pivotal moment?
Yes, I definitely believe it's a pivotal moment. It's been a pivotal moment for the Christians of India, because more and more Christians are coming out. It is a pivotal moment for civil society in India. More and more people are coming out. For 2 years, people have been languishing in jail, and we have been muted. We have been afraid. We do not know sufficient amount about them. Now, finally, more and more people are taking strength on the fact that an old man, a visionary, a person who really loved the people, and in that sense, the canvas is broadened. So we look also at the 15 others who are languishing in jail. So it should be a pivotal moment, not only for the people of India, not only for our politicians. Today, politicians from across the board have given a public press conference under the banner of the People's Union for Civil Liberties, calling for the immediate revocation, the repeal of the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, the UAPA, immediately. It doesn't matter who has brought it out. but stop it, repeal it, revoke it. They're demanding it. A man like Hemant Soren, the chief minister of Jharkhand, to which state Father Stan belongs, has publicly asked for him to be released. Politicians from across the board, I've spoken about. I'm asking all the viewers, do a Google on Stan Swami and look at the amount you will find. Videos, people speaking for them. There are webinars being conducted. Youth are coming out, they are tweeting, stand with Stan. And that has been the hashtag. You look at the tweets that have been coming out. It has been trending for several days in India too. But Stan Swami, I feel, is not merely, his arrest is not merely pivotal for India alone, but should be for justice for all, human rights for all across the globe, for the world at large. Because that is why the commissioner, the UN Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet, has spoken out very strongly in a recent statement. Of course, the Indian government has not taken too kindly to that. But then, if we believe in the Universal Declaration for Human Rights, me speaking about human rights in India or speaking about human rights in another country should be valid, because I am a citizen of this world.
And I agree. These are the sort of, like, we all a lot of times we emulate folks after they pass away. Here's hands, we make a big deal out of them after they, but Father Stan Swami, his work is at the level of Mother Teresa, others like her, right? So this is the moment that we people need to get involved to save lives, save his life. Because it is in danger, and for no reason whatsoever except for his call towards peace and justice. Father, we have a few moments left before we leave, and I do want to talk about a little bit of sensitive topics that perhaps with this we can, we have had been following cases of other prisoners who've been young children, 20-year-olds being taken away, 22-year-olds being taken away because they stood up against the CAA and NPR, and we are and will continue to stand with Christians and other minorities. This is something that, as Justice for All, as a faith-based human rights organization, we have made this pledge.
Thank you for that.
Yes, and what all our work that we're doing here is in communal with our Christian brothers and sisters. But often people are afraid to stand with Muslims, given the anti-Muslim bigotry, the Islamophobia, the war on terror rhetoric that is frequently used against Muslim communities. So could you share with us, how has the Jesuit community responded to the arrests of Indian Muslim protesters, Shaheen Bagh, as well as other persecution of the Muslim minority in India? I want my audience to really hear this.
Yeah, that is true, especially in India. Let us face facts. A lot of Christians are closer to Hindus, have more Hindu friends than Muslim friends. I don't want to do an analysis of it, but this is a fact. Not me, not this Jesuit, Father Santik Prakash. I have, as you have said, I've testified there what happened. I've had close Muslim friends. I've been celebrating Eid. They have been coming, and from the time I was a little child, we have had Muslim neighbors. In the school I studied in Bombay, in Baikala, my companions were Muslims and Parsis and Hindus, Christians, everyone. In the college I studied, St. Xavier's College, we have had several Muslim students. So I've had a lot of Muslim friends. And I've come to the United States a few times at the invitation of I'm sure some of them are listening, of the Indian American Muslim Council, formerly called the IMC. And I have lots of Muslim friends, originally mainly from India, who are there, who are American citizens today. And I think they're legitimate, they have a right to be American citizens. But some of the other I've been to Shine Bagh.
Mhm.
I've been there protesting with my Muslim sisters and brothers. I've taken a stand. Now, when Umar Khalid was arrested, he's a good friend of mine. I've been tweeting about his arrest and so on. But I think we need to come closer,
Right.
both in India and in other parts of the world. I think we have to create synergies and look at commonalities. What binds us together? Both of us, including the Jews, have the Abrahamic faith.
Exactly.
We have one father in Abraham. But how do we create this? For this, I would think, and I would tell many of my Muslim friends in the United States, I'm sure they're listening to me just now. Try to go. I've been inviting them whenever I've been in Jesuit universities and so on to come introduce them to the priests. I've been preaching in American churches. I have preached, in mosques in the United States, but we have too few of us.
Hmm.
We have more. I know excellent Jesuits who have studied the Quran, who have studied about Islam, and we have had like the Henry Martin Institute here in India that is working a lot towards Christian and Islam towards a dialogue.
Mhm.
But can we find commonalities wherever we are? Can we break bread together? Can we realize that I often tell my friend, a personal thing, a great friend of mine in Europe. I will not name the country. She was taking me to a church, and while going to a church in that country, she showed me, see Father, see Cedric. Those are the people. They are creating the problems. I said, who? And of course, on a Sunday morning, you can see this Muslim man, the woman with hijab, and with a little child walking by their side in a pram in Europe. So, of course, and this is a close friend of mine. Then, when I went to the church after the Mass, the priest asked me to say a few words. And then I said, see, this friend of mine is there with the family. She won't mind me saying this. But we have to stop this divisiveness. The moment she came to the church, she went to the statue of Mary, the mother of Jesus, and prayed to her and kissed her without realizing that Mary, the mother of Jesus, has a hijab all the time.
I use that line all the time when I have to let people know why I wear the hijab. This is out of love for God and my emulation of
Right.
the Virgin Mary. And I think that is a lot of that does come with a lot of people do not understanding and knowing how common, what all we have in common. And I think in that way, the interfaith movement in the United States is a lot stronger in many ways. But the interfaith movement in India is very what I admire about it is that is also very proactive. It's not just
Yes, that's true. We have a very good interfaith movement, and we work a lot together, especially where human rights are concerned and so on. We are Hindus, Muslims, agnostic, atheists, Christians, everyone across the board, and we don't wear our religion up the sleeve. Okay, many Christians have accused me of many things, and now I'm sure tonight after this program I'll be trolled a lot. But that's part of our occupational hazard.
exactly.
But there is no. But the point is, we don't realize that the religious sisters in Christianity, in our Catholic Church, were always with a veil. Our grandmothers were always covering their heads when they went to church, and a lot of the Hindu women cover their heads. So what is the problem? And why can't I accept someone who wears a hijab or wants to sport a beard? In case you do not know, our Prime Minister of India today sports a lovely beard, almost looking, as someone said yesterday, like a Santa Claus.
Well, thank you so much for all your words of wisdom. We all pray for Father Stan and his release and the release of all innocent people who have been jailed and put into custody for their beliefs, for worshiping who they worship, for believing in standing up for human rights, for standing up for their rights, for dissenting against acts of the government that will harm their communities. So we all pray for them, and thank you so much, and keep us in your prayers, and as we keep you in ours. And please don't stop fighting the good fight. You're an inspiration for all of us here on what faith-based advocacy looks like. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Hina. Thank you, Aisha. Thank you, Vai. Thank you to all in Justice for All, and very especially to your many viewers who have been watching this program. I feel kind of invigorated with this conversation. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. And to all of us over here, we do want to remind you to save the date for November 21st, where we will be having our annual webathon. Everything is going virtual this year, and our annual fundraiser will be going virtual as well. So save the date for November 21st. Thank you all, and thank you to my lovely producer, Aisha Malik, and our technical senior producer, Wahid Mir, for all their work on this show. Assalamu alaikum.